Yo, 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 yo. One thing for sure, two things for certain. I go by the simple name of Skinny. And last week's episode was our introduction episode. You got to get to know a little bit about me and why we developed this podcast and why we are on this particular platform. And so this week, I want to just say thank you for everyone that's subscribing, everyone that's liking our page and our liking our Instagram page, our Facebook page, subscribing to our YouTube. This is a great time to be alive. I actually I want to just jump right into it. I was talking on the phone the other day with a friend of mine, and he was asking me, was I going up to Minneapolis for the Derek Chauvin case? And although I know that his heart was in the right place, I could not get over the fact that we don't have to go all the way to Minneapolis to talk about police brutality. We can talk about police brutality right here. We don't have to go all the way to Atlanta to talk about police brutality. We don't have to go to Atlanta to talk about Rayshard Brooks. There's police brutality right here. Nor do we have to go to Brunswick, Georgia, and talk about Ahmaud Arbery, because there's police brutality right here. And right here is not necessarily where I'm at, but it's where you are at. There is police brutality right now wherever you are at. And so you don't have to travel the world to go and protest police brutality in somebody else's community. We can start by protesting police brutality in our own. As a child, I grew up in December 2003 is one of probably the heaviest of days that Columbus have ever seen. It was the murder of Kenneth Walker. We saw, 8,000 to 10,000 people gather for down at the government center. We saw Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson come. And then we seen our elected official go back to things as they always were. In 2013, we saw the killing of Zacharias Flint on the campus of CSU. They told us that Zacharias had a gun and that he was waving it at them. But somehow Zacharias Flint ended up shot in the back of the neck and in his back. And the way the police of the Columbus State Police Department decided to rub that in our face even more was they gave that officer that murdered Zacharias Flint, they actually gave him an award for his bravery. On December the 29th, 2017, Jarvis Lykes, a 35-year-old young brother here in Columbus, Georgia, was gunned down by 23-year-old Georgia State Patrolman Michael Nolan. Jarvis was accused of fleeing a DUI checkpoint, which I put in quotation marks because he never even arrived at the DUI checkpoint. But the police got behind him, and we don't really know what happened because coincidentally, the police body camera did not work, nor was his camera on his car on. And so what we saw then is the same thing that we've always seen, is the police taking up for themselves, taking up for each other, trying to sweep it under the rug. And so I thought that this episode would be a great time to talk about someone in our own hometown who has been a victim of a system that was supposed to serve and protect him, but actually took his life. And so I'm honored to be joined today by his mother, Miss Kathy Lykes. Miss Kathy is a woman of faith who has shown tremendous strength during this season of injustice in her life and in her family's life. Miss Kathy has joined as she said, a sorority that I believe no mother should be a part of unless having to bury their own child. I was honored a few months ago to actually be the guest speaker at the 3rd anniversary of Jarvis's death. And so I hate that it's under these circumstances, Miss Kathy, that we're here today. But will you please help me welcome Miss Kathy Lykes? How are you, Miss Kathy?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you, Skin. It's so good to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here with me and not thinking it to be robbery to take some time out and to, I know, talk about something that's very dear and near to your heart. One of the first times that I ever became really engaged with your family was after the murder of Jarvis. Your daughter, Janisha, reached out to me and kind of like anybody in that predicament, hey, what can we do?
Right.
Because it seemed like every department was giving you the runaround. And I was just glad that I could offer some resources to help get justice for your child. So I want to start off with that. Tell me, when you think about Jarvis, what do you remember most about him?
Jarvis was like a light bulb. You know, when he walked in the room and you turn that switch on, he lit up that room. He was so well loved. He was so popular. He was respectful, mannerable, helpful, and he had a very generous and warm heart. You know, he couldn't stand the sight of blood. He did not like to see any type of violence. Jarvis was more of a person that would de-escalate a situation and to get some, you know, understanding to whoever it was. It didn't have to be anyone specifically, but Jarvis was that type of person, was just so loving, you know,
Right.
and everybody loved Jarvis. Everybody, elderly, the children, his age group, my age, it didn't matter. Jarvis was just a big impact on a lot of people.
Right. And I think we've seen that, you know, since his death, of how many people in the community have came out to support the events that you've held in his honor.
Oh, wow.
And he definitely was someone who you can definitely say was well loved and well liked. And so it's unfortunate what happened to him on that December the night. And I know that it's a terrible thing to have to continue to think back on, but can we for a second just talk about that night? How did you receive the information that Jarvis was no longer with us?
Well, Skinny, it was on the next morning, December 30th, 5:30 in the morning when the doorbell rang, and it was 2 people standing on my front porch, and, you know, one of them had on a uniform. The other person, I really couldn't see, you know, who they were. But it ended up being the GBI agent and the coroner to come to the home that morning to tell us about Jarvis being murdered.
And what did they tell you then?
When I opened my door, the first thing came out of his mouth, he said, ma'am, do you know Jarvis Lykes? And I was like, yes, that's my son. And I said, what's the problem? What's wrong? And he asked me, said, well, is there anyone else here with you? Because what I need to tell you is you need someone to be with you. So I ran to the bedroom, and Joe, his dad, was asleep. I woke him up. I ran to his 2 sisters' room, woke them up, and I told them that, you know, that there was a police officer and another man here saying something has happened to Jarvis. So we all gathered in this living room, and
The same one was sitting
the
there
same
right
one
now.
we're sitting in right now. And he started off to tell us about what had happened the night before. which was that Jarvis had been fatally killed by a Georgia State Trooper. Fatally killed. And when he said fatally killed, I lost it. I didn't hear anything else he had to say. Because, I mean, my hysterics was so loud that everything he was saying was like a muffled sound to me. I really couldn't hear him because of my screaming. And my husband and my two daughters, Janisha and Nene, they kept on until they calmed me down enough that I asked the GBI agent, would he please repeat what he had just said? And that's when he told me about that Jarvis was en route. There was a DUI checkpoint, and that before he got to the checkpoint, Jarvis turned and went in the opposite direction. Georgia State Trooper, got behind him. Said he wasn't driving fast, he wasn't driving slow, he was driving normal like anybody else. He said that once the officer got behind Jarvis starts driving off a little bit more, and he ended up in this dead-end street. He said that when the officer got out the vehicle, he got out with his gun drawn on Jarvis. It said Jarvis got out the car, and the officer, I don't know what orders he was given, what command, because, again, there was no body cam, there was no audio, so there is no footage of us actually ever knowing what actually happened that night with Jarvis.
Coincidentally.
Coincidentally.
Because you can better believe it that had it been Jarvis who had attacked the police officer, then they cameras would have been up to par that night.
And believe it or not, they said Jarvis, when he got out the car or whatever, the officer said to him, said Jarvis was walking back towards his car, and he reached over inside his car, and as he reached over inside the car, the officer, the state trooper, actually came up from behind him and grabbed him, and grabbed Jarvis, and when he grabbed Jarvis wiggled off of him, and he continued trying to look in the car, and at this time, of course, I feared for my life. So he ran behind, the officer ran behind his police cruiser, watching Jarvis, searching in his car for something. As Jarvis found what he was looking for, and as he was coming about the car, Jarvis came out the car with his arm raised in the air, not pointing it, like pointed towards the officer, but it was up in the air. And the officer, not knowing what Jarvis actually had in his hand, he shot him.
And what was in Jarvis's hand?
His cell phone.
We talked a few months ago, and because I think this is very important, and you told me why you think Jarvis was reaching for his cell phone.
My reason for Jarvis to find his cell phone was to contact someone to let them know, hey, I need some help here, and my heart really believed it was me. It was me. He had just left home. He was on his way to work, and I, for anytime any of my kids would find themselves in any type of situation, or what, the first person they're gonna call is mama.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna call mama.
Absolutely.
And I know in my heart that who Jarvis was about to call was me. I was the last person he saw as far as family is concerned. I was the last person that Jarvis saw before he walked out that door going to work that night.
And did they tell you that night that that they accidentally shot him over a cell phone, or was that information that you discovered later on in the process?
When they told us, it was later on. It was later on. It was not during the time of when they came to the home the next morning to tell us. It was later on.
And at what point did you discover that because we got to place ourselves inside of context here. In December 2017, we had just passed the summer of 2016, which had the killing of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling. 2015 that had Freddie Gray, 2014 Michael Brown. So we're, you know, this didn't just come out of nowhere. And so I think that's important to note.
Yes.
Is that and I say that point is that this didn't come out of nowhere. Is that when we were protesting in those years, our very specific demands were for body cameras.
Right.
And so that's why I just can't get it in my head that your camera was not on your cruiser, nor was it on your body cam.
Nope.
And you're at a DUI checkpoint.
Okay. Come on now.
Yeah, so that just didn't make sense to me.
It didn't.
Let's keep talking about this. And so when the investigation for what took place was going on, and it was with the DA Julia Slater.
Oh yeah.
What was that process like for you? And because I know that not only you, but a lot of Black parents have had to deal with her allowing for dust to build up on cases that are sitting on her desk. And so how long did it take for her to finish the investigation for Jarvis?
Actually, GBI had finished their investigation in, let me make sure I say it right. They finished the investigation, if I'm not mistaken, in July of 2018, because we were told it was going to take about 90 days for the GBI to do their investigation.
And they took roughly 7 months.
7 months.
Okay.
Yes, because we had our first, actually Julia Slater met with the family in September of 2018, wanting to know about Jarvis. You know, she wanted to know who Jarvis was. We were supposed to meet again, she said, because even though the GBI had turned in their report to her, she wanted to do her own investigation with her own, DA investigator.
Like she had special material or something.
So, okay, we were supposed to meet up again in November from the DA, from her personal DA investigator. It didn't happen. I actually became ill. I was admitted in the hospital in February of 2019. So we had to push that back. And we actually met again in April 2019 in the grand jury room, along, with other family.
So it's been about 16 months at this point.
Right.
Okay.
And she, at that time, informed us that she would be the one prosecuting the case. And we, I just simply had to ask her, Miss Slater, who are you representing? Well, she says, I'm representing the state. I said, well, Miss Slater, something wrong here. You represent the state. He's a Georgia State trooper.
Right.
Exactly. So how are you trying to see about the family?
Right.
What is going to happen about the family? Because now this part here, it's really got me confused.
Right.
You are representing the state. Understand me well, Skinny. So how you represent the state, but it's a Georgia State trooper, he's a police.
Right.
What are you going to actually do?
Nothing.
What are you going to actually do, Well, it came out. Nothing. Nothing. Because he wasn't, indicted. He wasn't charged.
Let's talk about that. When was the grand jury?
It was on May 7th,
May
2019.
So about 16, 17 months after he was murdered. Now, we were talking about this before we started recording, but the George Floyd entire trial was completed in less than a year.
Right.
The entire trial.
Right.
So we're just talking about them in their initial investigation, and should they bring that up to a grand jury.
Right.
So then we got a grand jury, and how many days was George Floyd?
what, 15 days?
15 days.
15 days.
And how many? How long were they assembled for Jarvis's case?
Not even 8 hours.
Not even 8 hours.
Not even 8 hours. On May 7th, she asked that the family be there at around 10 o'clock. That she was going to do her presentation and all the other stuff she had to put out, to the grand jury. And I was under the impression, okay, grand jury, so how come I don't see, nobody? Not knowing that she didn't put it in open court. Mm. She actually had it in the grand jury room. Mm-hmm. And we sat there, Skinny, until like after 1 o'clock before we actually was escorted up to the floor where the grand jury room is. Mm-hmm. We were given the opportunity to speak in front of the grand jury after the testifying of the GBI, of the DA investigator, mm-hmm. and of course Julia Slater spiel in front of them. The family was able to talk on behalf of Jarvis' character at that time. And it was like maybe, 15, 20 minutes? And we were out of there.
Wow.
We were escorted back down to her conference room in her office. And around 3 o'clock that afternoon, we were escorted back to another floor. And this here is open court. At this time, when we walked inside that courtroom, was the first time I've ever laid eyes on the state trooper that murdered my son.
Michael Nolan.
Mm-hmm. First time I've ever laid eyes on him.
How did you feel then?
Oh, my God. I looked at him, and
Did he have any remorse?
No, did not. Because of the fact he had already been informed, everything going to be okay. Mm-hmm. It's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. Mm-hmm. Nothing going to happen. No, he didn't show any remorse.
Wow.
No, he didn't. He sat over with his attorney, and it was 2 other state trooper officers with him. He was in his state trooper uniform.
Wow.
It was the only people there of black people of color was just us. Everybody else in that courtroom, the judge, Julia Slater, another person sitting at the table, and a couple of her staff members. Everybody white.
So I'll take that to mean that he didn't have a jury of his peers.
No, mm-hmm. I wouldn't. No, because we never seen anybody,
Right.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm so interested in that is because we just in Columbus elected a new district attorney. Mm-hmm. I want to know, one, have you spoken with newly elected district attorney Mark Jones, and if so, what has he said?
Joe and we actually had a meeting with the new district attorney Mark Jones in January.
Okay.
In his office, and he told us, that he wanted to review the case. He wanted to, look over everything and see what could he do as far as having that case reopened. Mm-hmm. He said what concerns him was the fact that the case had been closed from Julia Slater. Mm-hmm. But that was he said, but I'm going to go through each of these documents and the reports, and let's see where we can go from there.
Okay. Those
was his words. Let's see where we can go from there.
Okay. So we have to. So now we know that after and you were a huge participant in the George Floyd March in last year in Columbus.
Yes.
Where it just was an amazing day of unity and power, mm-hmm. and just being together with like-minded people during such a traumatic event in all of our lives. Why do you think that Jarvis's case has not become mainstream like some of the other cases that are so, like Trayvon Martin or your Tamir Rice or your Alton Sterling or Philando Castile or and I know that in an instance, in a way that there are so many of us who are it's like sometimes we can't keep up with the amount of people that are passing away from this brutality that people of color are facing. Yes, so I guess that's my question. Why do you think that it hasn't received the amount of attention that others have?
Skinny, it is rightfully said that justice is never the same for all. Okay. I feel a lot that without the body cam or the dash cam footage to reveal what happened compared to George Floyd and Eric Gardner and, all the high profile cases, Ahmaud Arbery, because of no body cam or no dash cam or no witness videos of showing what happened that night.
Right.
Jarvis is not the only case that this has happened to. Oh God, it's over 4,000 plus odd cases that no one knows about because of lack of being made aware or that there was any type of coverage done, And with us, especially in the state of Georgia, think about it. In the state of Georgia alone, we have had, like you said, Kenneth Walker. We had Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, Zacharias Flint. But look at this fact about them. They all had body cam footage. They all had dash cam footage. Jarvis didn't. So with that, he wasn't highly profiled.
I think he did, but they just won't release it because it's something that they're hiding from us.
What, talking about as far as body cam or dash
cam? Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Skinny, you always have said that.
I do believe
that.
I do.
You have said that from day one.
Because if it was something that would have exonerated them, they would have released that night. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's a reason why footage comes up missing. I think a lot about my brother down in Valdosta, Kendrick Johnson.
Yes.
Disappeared, and the tape. They want to. I don't know. They're trying to convince us or convince themselves that he fell into the mat. But we know better than that.
We know better.
And then for the tape to be edited, and so what there's just it's a pattern.
Yes.
Of things happening with video footage.
Right.
And I totally believe that. I believe that there's something on that tape that they're trying to keep, not only from his family, but from the community as a whole. And I am committed to finding it.
Okay.
Because we have to let us see and judge for ourselves what happened. But to offer up the excuse that his body camera, nor did the camera on his car work. Right. Well, he should have went and got another car.
Okay, exactly.
Or he should have made sure that his body camera was working before he got out there in the field.
Right.
And so we got to start implementing policies that hold police accountable.
Exactly.
When their body camera doesn't work, or when that cruiser camera doesn't work, that's a part of your job.
It's like tampering with evidence.
It is.
It's like tampering with evidence.
Exactly what it should be.
Okay, and that's a crime.
It is.
That's a crime.
It is
to tamper with evidence. You mentioned earlier that now I am a member of this sorority group that nobody wants to be a member of. It's devastating, it's painful, it's hurtful, and there's no healing. There is no healing because every time you turn around, what do you see? What do you hear? Continuing to happen. We are so, we're tired of talking. Talking has been done. Marches has been done. Rallying has been done. It's time for action.
It is.
It is time for action, Skinny. It's time to start putting the fire under some people. Make them do their job. And anyway, with being in the sorority group, the the mothers, the families, the impacted families, they're tired. They are so tired of not being able to move forward, because of it's a redundancy here now, because every time you turn around, what do you see? Another one. Another killing, another killing, another killing. How can we heal?
Right.
We have talked, we have protested, we've marched, we've talked to elected officials. We've done everything that we feel like we should do, but now it's time for action. Yes, we want action now. We're tired of the lies from the elected officials. We're tired of being our cases being swept up beneath the rug. We're tired of them feeling like our child's life didn't matter, because it did. It mattered, So it's gonna. What is it gonna take? What is the solution for this to come to an end? What's gonna have to happen?
I honestly believe that we have to legislate that Black Lives Matter. That we have to pass the George Floyd policing bill.
Yes.
And one of the things that, I was kind of bittersweet about the Chauvin case, because to me, I feel like that once Chauvin was acquitted, then we all kind of would just go back into our corners and say, look, the system is working. And it's like, no, the system isn't working. Plenty of people have got their butt whooped since George Floyd has been murdered.
That's right.
And right after the case closed of George Floyd, you had to have immediately the next day a funeral for another young man that had endured police brutality. And so I've always, and I say it so often, I feel like I'm a broken record. I'm always amazed at how we can never get justice through the justice system, but somehow the city is willing to open up the taxpayer pocketbook and give you a few dollars.
Yes.
But what you giving us a few dollars for if ain't nobody did nothing wrong?
Okay. Okay.
So that always has been a thought to me as well. And so how long have you been with these other groups of mothers? Have did they reach out to you, or did you find them, or?
Actually, we when Jarvis when we lost Jarvis, we were introduced to an activist by the name of Marcus Coleman. He's the CEO, founder of Save Ourselves, SOS. He's based out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Marcus is the one that started the crusade journey for us as far as what we were about to do. He introduced me and Joe to other mothers. He had me to
and
speak
y'all
on Jarvis.
For each other.
I'm telling you, man. He had me to go to the state capitol along with other mothers, do news briefs. Matter of fact, Marcus was one that actually pushed Julia Slater. He was behind Julia Slater of, hey, why are you procrastinating on this family?
Right.
This family is wanting answers. Why haven't you made any moves? So my hat is off to Marcus Coleman. And I thank him for the part of his, supportive role and getting me started on where I'm at now. Because I tell you, I was pitiful. I was pitiful. I couldn't talk. I couldn't verbalize my feelings about anything. It took other mothers, and thank God, Jackie Johnson, KJ Johnson's mother is one of them.
Yeah.
Monteria Robinson, Jamaria Robinson's mother, and Tammy Atchison Featherstone. Those three mothers, listening to them and they're putting their stories out about their lost loved one, gave me the strength to start telling mine. And ever since what is going on 4 years, I have become ruthless. Whatever comes up, comes out. And with that, I've met other mothers, that is in this same sorority group. When we traveled to Minnesota, I met more because we were from all across the country. Everyone has the same similarity, which make us more unified, that has the solidarity, because we all feel that same pain. There's no difference, just different names.
That's all it
Different names, yes. And I tell you, we all have talked about what is the problem with the families getting justice. And, of course, you've heard of qualified immunity, qualified immunity. But, one thing I haven't really heard anyone speak on is police unions. Do you know how powering the police union is?
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine that the police union, man, is the ones that's is preventing these police officers from being held accountable?
Talk about it.
Because they have the money. Do you realize how much money they contribute to these political candidates when they running for whatever office, to win their votes, and how they coach these officers and what to say and what to do, how to write a report, how to make the narrative, that they, it wasn't them. It was actually the victim.
Right.
I mean,
and
y'all better look at the police union, man.
They learned that from the first day of police training.
Okay.
Of how to make sure that they were scared.
That's right.
I was fearful.
Right.
They know how to word it from day one.
That's right.
And so I think that is something that's important to note, because we don't often talk about the influence and the power of the police unions. Well, I have another question for you.
Okay.
How have, over these last 3 or 4 years, have you begun to learn how to heal?
That's honestly, Skinny, there is no healing. There is no healing because of the fact that it's keep repeating itself. It keep repeating itself, right? Like as you said earlier, George Floyd, at the jury verdict, Dante Wright. From Dante Wright, we had Michaela Bryant. And it just keep going on and on and on and on. How can we heal? Because every time we see this, it reflects back on us and what we're going through. There is no healing for us.
Do you watch those videos? So I never have seen the incomplete George Floyd video. I probably watched 30 seconds of it, but I could not sit there and watch that. I did watch the Ahmaud Arbery case, and I wish I didn't. But watching those videos put me in a place that I don't want to be in.
No, you don't.
And how do you feel? And I can about imagine how do you feel. But how do you feel of turning on your TV and seeing this thing continuing to happen again and again and again? And regardless of your income, regardless of how many degrees you got, regardless of where you live at the end of the day, you still are a black man.
That's right.
So
anger, full of anger. Sometimes I scare myself because I get so angry. I start thinking irrational. I start, not really being logical with my thinking process because, you get to that point where you say, you know what? I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of being passive. One time I think about always, I'm just going to come on out my character, the way I am, the normal character that people know me as. And why don't you start being evil? Let that evilness come out. Blast people. Start blasting them names, let them know who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing because you're so full of anger. It's like a process, Skinny. You're in denial, you're in pain, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're disgusted. So with all of that, and then you still seeing the same thing happen over and over and over again, we mothers and impacted families, we're just stressed out mentally, emotionally, physically. The only thing that keep us strong and keep us fighting is our spiritual, well-being. It's all about spiritual strength now.
Absolutely.
The spiritual strength is what keep us strong. And, we look at those. I look at Jarvis' picture. I look at all these other pictures of police violence kids being killed by them. I draw strength from that, because we understand that if we don't do it, it's not going to get done.
It won't be done.
It won't be done. We have to be their voice because they're not here to speak for themselves no more,
Well, I got two last questions for you.
Okay.
One is, what are you doing to ensure that Jarvis receives justice? And the second part of that question is, how can we as a community support you in the work that you're doing? With all of the people listening, if we can take some time and not just hear about Jarvis and the devastating loss of him, but how can we bring justice to you and your family? What does justice look like to you and your family?
Skinny, justice is a bond. Justice to me is bonding, is organizing, is joining together, collectively, and being there for me, for me. If anytime I'm out there protesting, or if I'm out there on Macon Road with signs of Jarvis pictures, walking up and down that sidewalk like you see the candidates when it's time for elections, they out there, we go down to the government center. Come on, we can do a private, it don't have to be loud. It can be silent protesting, walking up and down that sidewalk, showing Jarvis, letting them know, what this is about.
Absolutely.
You know what this is about. If you see, whereas I'm putting it out there, hey, I need your help. I need your support. Can you join me? Join me. Just like we did on June 6, 2020 for George Floyd. Well, that's who Jarvis is. Jarvis Lykes is George Floyd. And we got out there and we, protest. We showed up in numbers, and it was oh Lord, it was amazing. It was amazing.
It was.
And it's nothing that I ask a lot of. All I ask is that when you see those flyers out there, or you look on Facebook, you see it on Instagram, that, hey, Miss Light's gonna go down here on Macon Road today. She's gonna be down with Jarvis up and down the sidewalk. Let's go. Let's go.
With her.
Come join me. Join me. I mean,
put it on Facebook if you can't come, so somebody else can show up.
Exactly. And I mean, I need that support. I really do. It makes it easier for me to deal with it, knowing that I have people that actually supporting me and genuinely caring about what happened to Jarvis Lykes.
Absolutely. One of the things I want to highlight is that I was a big proponent of during the George Floyd protest for us to take that momentum and go to the polls with it.
Yes.
And evidently that worked. Because not only did we get a new DA, but we got a new sheriff in town too.
Yes.
So we know there's power.
There is.
In the people, in the number of people. But me and you were talking a couple of days ago, and I was just sharing that the voices of 10 speak silence than the speak louder than the silence of 1,000. And so sometimes it seems like you're out there by yourself, but if I gotta stand out there by myself,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it,
and I know you are, and that's why I love you, and I'm here, and I want to issue a even greater call to the listeners and the viewers of this podcast to reach out to the district attorney for the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit and request that he reopens the case of Jarvis Lykes.
That's right. Please.
That's
please.
a simple to-do action. Call District Attorney Mark Jones of the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit.
That's right.
Now, this ain't gonna be no new phone call to him because Miss Kathy already said that he done told her that he was going to go back and he was going to look over the documents.
That's what he said.
So we want to give him a reminder phone call just in case he forgot. So we will make sure that information is shared in the description, in the comment section of this podcast. I'm just so glad, Miss Kathy, that you took time today and without a thought, without a thought, you were willing to have this conversation. I know it's not the easiest conversation to have, but I was actually came with a scripture for today. Isaiah 61:8.
Come on with it.
For I, the Lord, love justice.
Yes.
And so since we serve a God that loves justice, it is my belief that you are going to get justice for you and your family. And eyes have not seen, and ears have not heard how God is going to use this situation for his glory.
Yes.
So that even more people are drawn to him.
Yes, yes.
And so we know that Jarvis did not die in vain. And so it's now our turn.
Our time.
To do the work to make sure that happens.
Our time. Right now. And I claim it. I claim it in the name of Jesus that we will see justice not only for Jarvis, but for all lives lost due to police violence and brutality. I claim the victory.
Absolutely.
I claim it.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Miss
You're
Kathy.
welcome.
You have an amazing home. I'm glad that you welcomed me in. And I just want to thank Miss Kathy again for joining. I want to send a great shout out, big thanks to all of the subscribers. Please like and share our Facebook page, which is the Respect It or Check It podcast, as well as at Respect It or Check It pod on Instagram. As always, on this podcast, facts matter. You can either respect it or you can check it. Until then, take care.
Respect it or check it. Real conversations about real issues, from politics to overpopulated prisons. Respect it or check it. Real great debates about real topics like greed, poverty, and what can we do to stop it. Respect it or check it. Check it. Check it. Respect it or check it.